Hi, welcome back to my tier list series for Doctor Who, and today we are on to series 1 of New Who from 2005. So just some general things before we continue, because there are some changes with the New Who set of tier lists from the classic ones. So first of all, my ratings of the episodes, obviously they're not serials anymore, they're just single episodes. So like with the audio series I did previously, they're going to be sort of rated as still between 1 to 5, but I will pick a decimal place for it rather than it being an average out of all the episodes. So a little bit different there, but still basically the same. Also, I'm not going to be saying as much of my thoughts on every episode, because the plan is that I will be doing a series of collabs with a friend of mine, and we will be discussing loads of different episodes of Doctor Who in great detail. So I figured there's no point repeating myself. May as well save the nitty-gritty bits for those videos and just try and speed this up a little bit, because there's at least 14 episodes per season at the moment, so it's gonna take a while if I go into detail on every single episode. So just in case you are new here and you are only here for the New Who videos and you haven't seen my classic videos, this is my tier list which I use. I created it myself because I wanted fun names. At the bottom we have Scar or Sewers, which is for any episode I just don't really like. If I actively dislike it, it goes in the Scar or Sewers. The next tier is Doctor Who, and that is for episodes that could be fine, but they're just not very memorable. I either don't remember what happens in them, or if you ask me to name an episode from, say, series 3 or 4, whatever, and I don't name that one, it's because I just don't remember it's there. Wibbly Wobbly is next, and that one is for episodes that are fine. They're fine. Or they could have been really good, but they just had some issues I just can't look past, that sort of thing. Upgrade in Progress is for episodes that are on the cusp of greatness. There's just something that stops me from loving it. Then we have Fantastic, which is kind of self-explanatory. That's for the great episodes, the ones that are just fantastic. And then we have a special top tier of NewWho, which is the Doctor Who theme tune, because that is for the best of the best, the greatest of all time episodes, in my opinion. And it's just episodes that scream Doctor Who. The episodes in that tier are Doctor Who. They just are, to me, obviously. And that is something else actually. With the classic era, I didn't much take note of how beloved certain serials were overall, because I'm not a part of the bigger classic community as I am the New Who community, because I grew up in 2005 with these series. I only watched classic for the first time a few years back, so it's not as ingrained in me which ones are beloved by the fandom. So I just put them wherever, but I was trying to be nice about it. Now that we're in New Who, I'm going to be much more critical. Not in the sense that I'm going to put everything in Scar or Sewers, but definitely in the sense that if I don't like something, even if the fandom loves it, I will consider putting it in Scar or Sewers. It's going to be hard. I already know there's one later on that loads and loads of people love, and I just can't stand it. I just found it really, really boring. And yeah, that's going to be a difficult one to put in Scar or Sewers without everybody on the internet hating me. But I've decided to do this tier list as my own opinion. I am happy to hear yours in the comments. If you would have put something in a different tier, please let me know. This is all about discussion and seeing how other people rate things. I don't care if your opinions differ from mine. That's kind of the point of an opinion. There is no fact with opinion. It's just opinion. It's just how we feel about something. As long as you're kind and respectful to the comments, not just to me, but to everybody else, please let me know how your thoughts differ from mine and where you would have placed things. And just one final thing before we begin the tier list. Sorry, this is the longest introduction I've done so far, I think. I'm crocheting a Doctor Who scarf based on all the episodes of Doctor Who and my ratings of those episodes. So if you don't know about that and you're wondering why I've got number ratings for episodes as well as putting them in tiers, and the numbers and the tiers don't really align, that's why. The number ratings are for the scarf and the vibes and the feel of the episode is the tiers. Just in case you're wondering why there's different numbers to the tiers, it's not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in the tiers. It's very much just vibes. It's very hard to explain, but I'm hoping people understand the difference that I'm going for with that. With all that said, let's begin with series 1 and the very first episode that kick-started New Who, Rose. So I gave Rose a 5, and let me be clear, if this was not a premiere episode, I'd probably have given it a 4. However, as the premiere episode, the first episode of New Who, if this had have failed, New Who would have failed. We wouldn't have Doctor Who today. Or if we did, it wouldn't be like it has been for the past 21 years. So this is a good episode, and I will not hear anything different. I really like Rose. I love the setup of it following Rose as opposed to the Doctor, so that we get to know from the companion's perspective, which feels different from classic Who in a really good way. It sets up the mystery of the Doctor and really implements the Doctor Who title of the show. The Autons in this are really good. I do think that the classic Auton look was more creepy and uncanny valley, but the Autons do look like shop dummies, and that's what they're supposed to be in this one, so I think it works for what it's needed for. And I do love the fact that they used a classic monster for this first episode, rather than introducing a new monster or going straight in with the Daleks or something. It really just sets the world up before anything else, and I really appreciate that. There's also some really great moments in the episode itself, just little things, like when Autumn Mickey's head starts melting and the Doctor just forgets constantly, and Rose is having a go at him and saying, how can he just forget about that? How can he just forget that her boyfriend is dead and all of this sort of thing? And obviously Mickey wasn't dead, but Rose didn't know that. It's just things like that. And then we even get little hints about the Time War in this episode as well, just the tiniest things. We don't get the first bigger hint until the next episode, but we do get little hints in this one, which, as I've said, I love the mystery and the setup of who the Doctor is and what his past is. And then it ends really well as well. It sets Rose up as a really capable companion, and it also shows the Doctor's vulnerability at the time when he asks Rose to go with him and she says no. I can imagine that after everything he's been through, that would have taken a lot for him to do, only to be rejected like that, and he just accepts it, goes off and has a load of audio adventures, because I'm adamant that all the Big Finish audio range comes in between the time he left Rose and the time he went back to get her. And then he does go back and say it travels in time, and Rose like, yep, I'm off. I do understand why Rose went with him. I do have my issues with Rose and how she treats Mickey, and if you've watched any of my companion tier lists, you will know that. But at the end of the day, it's a TV show and stuff has to happen. Plot's got a plot. So I do like the fact that she does just run off at the end, and it sets up this whole series of adventures. So with all that said, I am going to put Rose into... Well, you know what? I was actually going to put it in Fantastic, but I think I'm actually going to put it into NewWho. This was not my first episode of Doctor Who. My first episode of Doctor Who was later in this season, the end of the season in fact. But this episode had to be good to ensure that we had Doctor Who. And it was good, and it is Doctor Who. And also, I'm putting it in NewWho just as a reminder to all of us, the golden rule of NewWho, don't skip 9. And the MVP for the episode is Clive J. Finch. Next up is The End of the World. So this one I've actually also given a 5 to. I do think it was a really good episode. Was it the best I've ever seen? No. But did it go a long way to setting up the world of Doctor Who again? Yes. And also it was their big budget episode of this is what we can do now. These are the costumes we can do. This is the makeup we can do. This is the sets and the designs that we can do. They had the satellite in space and all the different aliens that they used. It was remarkable for the time, and you know what? I think it was brilliant, okay? And the episode was good as well. It sets up the Doctor having grown hard and cold and Rose being on to melt the ice around his heart, so I do think it was a good episode overall. I just wish that some of the aliens they'd introduced in that episode had have come back in other episodes, because what was the point of making all those beautiful outfits and designing all that makeup just to use it for one episode where they're just background characters? Give me something more. One little thing from this episode that I've always hated is the premise of the episode itself, that the Doctor takes Rose to the end of the world for her first trip. I do think it's a complete dick move, okay? Let's be straight here. It is a dick move of the Doctor to take Rose away for her first trip out in time and space, and he takes her to the end of her planet when her planet blows up. That's not nice to do. It's not a nice place to be. He was a dick for that. However, I do feel like maybe he did it because he wanted someone to know how he felt. Obviously, we now know that this didn't happen, but at this point in time, the Doctor believes that he's destroyed Gallifrey in order to end the Time War. That means that he's watched his entire planet being destroyed, and I feel like he just wanted someone else to know his pain. And obviously he explains to her that humans have spread across the galaxy, that they're fine, humans are still there, it's just the planet that's, you know, everything has its time. And then he takes her back to planet Earth and says, you know, it's billions of years away, the people she knows and cares about will be fine. I feel like he did it in the nicest way possible, but it was still a dick move. And my theory on that can be reinforced by the ending when he does take her back to her time and he tells her how his planet burned. While Jade with her Pokedex gave us some much needed background lore on the Doctor, and she did start the whole Time War mystery as well with saying about how sorry she is. And Christopher Eccleston's amazing acting in that moment where he says nothing, but the look on his face is just emotional. but the ending gives us more, with the Doctor actually telling Rose a little bit about it. Not specifically, but he does say there was a war, my planet burned. So yeah, I think that kind of reinforces my theory just a little bit. All that being said, I think I'm going to put the end of the world into fantastic. It was a really good episode, and I do think that the costumes and the makeup were just glorious, especially Jabe. She looked phenomenal. I just think it was a great way to start the series with a grounded Earth-based episode, and then the second episode moves on to all these different alien species that we could encounter during our trip into NewWho. So I think it was a really good episode for that. There are 2 MVPs for this one, and the first is Ruffalo. And the second, of course, is Jabe Jafe. Next up is The Unquiet Dead. So this Forgotten Christmas episode got a 3 from me. I do like it. I think it was a decent episode. It wasn't as strong as the first 2, and obviously, what with it being the 3rd episode, I can't be overly generous like I was with the first 2 because it's just an episode. I think it was a good episode, but it was an episode. It wasn't anything phenomenal. It's not something that I would choose to willingly go back to over any other episode that I really like. I think it was a solid episode. I also like the fact that this episode comes with a delicate moral dilemma, as we know from my previous tier lists. I love a good Doctor Who moral dilemma. That's something that Doctor Who does really well, or at least it used to. And it does raise questions about things like organ donation and body donation, I guess, but obviously in a sci-fi context. I do also like the writing for Charles Dickens because his character was really well written, I think. Charles Dickens was a massive skeptic of the supernatural and all of that. He went around and debunked all these different mediums and stuff and showed how they were doing this because they were tricking people, and he was a massive skeptic. Having him in this episode constantly looking for wires and other things that could be the cause of these tricks, it makes sense. Yes, it goes on throughout the episode for quite a bit, but this is a man who has debunked loads of mediums and who does not believe in the supernatural. So yes, he would try and find the logical solution to all of this before he admits, okay, yeah, ghosts are real. Not everyone can see something one time and then believe in them. That's just not how belief works. You either believe or you don't, and Charles Dickens didn't. So I do really like the characterization of him in this episode and how it is continuous. It doesn't just switch. You can see him taking time to deal with the situation and process this. I also like the quieter moments in this episode. There's one moment I really enjoy in this episode, which is where Rose and Gwyneth have a little conversation in what I'm assuming is the pantry, but they have a little conversation and it's just so normal and sweet, and then the sci-fi bit kicks in. But I really like that moment. It's just the small quiet character moments that you get in Doctor Who. They just humanise all the characters. Even when they're not human, they're humanised, and it really works. Final thing to say about this is just a note on the Gelth themselves. I think the design is good for the Gelth. I do like the look of them. I do think it's weird though that they're all blue and floaty, and as soon as they revealed their evil plan, they turned red. I don't understand why they turned red. I'm assuming it was just so that the kids at home could understand that they're evil now, but it doesn't make sense as to why they turned red when they were being bad. But it did look good. All I can think though when I look at the Gelth is that they're basically in the same situation as Omega, but they're more mattery because at least they have some sort of floaty form. And the fact that they were being tortured by that existence and wanted out and wanted a body, again shows how crazy Rassilon's plan was in the end of time. We'll get there. I think it's an interesting concept for the Gelth. Anyway, tier listing this one, I'm going to put The Unquiet Dead into... I think I'm going to put it into Upgrade in Progress. I think it was a good episode. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. I feel a bit bad for giving it a 3 rather than a 4, but I am trying to be a bit more critical on New Who just to try and even out with the classic Who and make everything even out with the stories. So yeah, it's an Upgrade in Progress. And the MVP of the episode is Gwyneth. Next up is Aliens of London. The episode where Tony Blair gets killed and stuffed in a cupboard. Not to be confused with the comic relief short where Tony Blair regenerates into David Tennant. This episode got a 4. Now here's the thing, this is obviously a part of a 2-parter, and I do like this 2-parter. I think it's really interesting and I like it. This is the first political thriller in New Who and I really enjoyed it. It's just the more toilet humour aspects of the episode that I don't like. Yeah, that's the thing that prevents it from being any higher in my esteem, is the toilet humour aspects, but I do think it is a good episode. At this point in Doctor Who, it is now 2006, not 2005. So the first episode takes place in 2005, and every other Earth-based episode in this series takes place in 2006. So every single series takes place 1 year in the future until the Series 4 specials, which realign themselves with the contemporary time of the episodes. So the whole of David Tennant's run was in the future, and most of Chris Eccleston's run was in the future, which I just find interesting, really. I do actually have a little headcanon that the Master from Series 3 arrived in the UK just before this episode took place, so that he was actually there for this. It doesn't add anything to any story. I just like to think that happened. Again, we have some good moments in this one, especially where it comes to Jackie. I mean, the slap, for one thing, the stitch this mate moment, classic. And the fact that the Doctor then says about how he's never been slapped by someone's mother in 900 years of time and space travel. Boy, has he got a revelation coming. With Jackie, her pain is so clear in this that she has lost her daughter. Rose has been missing for a year, an entire year, and Jackie is just so pained about it all. And I do feel like it is swept under the rug a little bit, but obviously, even though it's a two-parter, we don't have time to be delving into all of that so much because it's a Doctor Who episode, not a family drama episode, even though there is a lot of family drama in Doctor Who, and I think that's a good thing. But I do think that Mickey deserves compensation for what he went through because, I mean, this is actually a really big episode because it has the introduction of Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North, Trinity Wells, everyone's favourite news anchor. It has a reintroduction of Unit. It introduces Albion Hospital, which will come back later in the series. And technically, Torchwood is also introduced in this one because Toshiko is there. It was confirmed that that actually was Tosh in the hospital investigating the little pig thing, which does make me question why Torchwood 3 was involved at all, because Torchwood 1 was very much active at that time and based in London and had more than 5 team members. So I feel like Torchwood 1 would have taken that one. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Torchwood 1 would have had that one. But yeah, there's a lot of introductions and reintroductions in this episode, so it is quite an important one for the Whoniverse as a whole. Last thing to say is that I think the Slitheen look bloody adorable. I've always loved the design of the Slitheen because they've got these big bug eyes that are just so... they're just like... oh, they're like baby eyes. They're just too big for their head. It's adorable. Also, they always have the claws and whatnot, which I just think looks amazing. I think overall the Slitheen costume was fantastic, and it again just goes to show how brilliant the NewWho costuming and makeup is. All props to the effects departments and the makeup and costume, everything. It's just brilliant. So, tiering this, I think I'm going to put this one into... I think I'll put it into upgrade in progress again. It would have been fantastic if not for the childish humour. That really is my only issue with this episode, and the next episode is the more toilet humour aspect of it. If it wasn't for that, it would probably be fantastic. And the MVP of the episode is Indra Ganesh. Bless him, the man was just trying to do his job. He tried. Next up is World War III. So this episode also got a 4, and like with the previous part of it, I do think that it is a good episode. It's just the toilet humour that lets it down for me. The cliffhanger from the last episode was resolved very quickly in this one, and that does feel like a running theme in Doctor Who with cliffhangers. It is what it is. You've got to keep the story moving. I want to talk about Mickey again, because this man was accused by Jackie of kidnapping or murdering or whatnot her daughter, and he was ostracised by his entire community because of Jackie's adamance that he did it. And yet, when Jackie was in danger, when she was in trouble, when she was about to be murdered, he went straight in there, helped her, grabbed her, saved her life, and he didn't hold it against her. He didn't keep saying things throughout the episode about how horrible it's been for him, what she's done to him. He just did the right thing, and I really like that. I do think that Mickey the character, let's be clear, I'm talking about the character here, not actors, just the character. Mickey the character does not get enough respect for being a really decent guy. Sure, there is a creepy age gap between him and Rose, which is even creepier now since he's another year older than her. And also he did seem like a bit of a wimp in the first episode. But Mickey does grow as a character throughout his time on the show, and I think that he deserves a bit more respect. I do. And likewise in Mickey, Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North, the star that she is, throws herself in front of the Slitheen to protect Rose. When they're going to take Rose, Harriet just throws herself in front of them, comes out of a hiding place. No, take me! Harriet's an absolute star, a legend, a queen. We love her. And that is something that does remain consistent throughout her time on the show. She always puts others before herself and will sacrifice herself before putting anyone else in danger. In a later episode, she does that again in the Christmas episode when the Sycorax are killing people and she pushes someone back and steps forward herself. She's like, no one else is dying, it's going to be me now. It is a consistency in her character and I like that. I stan Harriet Jones MP. But this episode I'm going to put alongside the first part in Upgrade in Progress. And the MVP for the episode is, of course, Harriet Jones, MP for Fly Down North. I mean, obviously she was going to be the MVP. Next up is Dalek. So Dalek obviously got a 5. I think it was a great reintroduction to the Daleks for classic fans and a great introduction to the Daleks for new fans. And it also stopped putting the Daleks in such a comical light that they'd become during the Wilderness years. It really made them feel like a threat again, because if one Dalek can do what that one did, what can an army of them do? We will find out later on. But I do think that it was a really good episode for the Daleks, and also a great timer episode as well, to show the Doctor reacting to this Dalek, this other survivor of the Time War. I mean, just his pure fear at seeing that it was a Dalek and begging to be let out of that room instantly shows you how terrifying the Daleks are, because even the Doctor, the man we've seen defeating monsters for the past 5 episodes, even he's terrified of this thing. Obviously the Doctor does talk to the Dalek in this one, which is not great, but I do think that in this particular episode it is completely in character for him. This is a man who's just had centuries of a time war against these Daleks and believes that he's destroyed all of Gallifrey in order to end that time war, and he's found that there's a Dalek still alive. I do understand why he does do the torture in this one, because it's a space Nazi, so I get it. But yeah, I'm glad that Rose humanises him a bit more and says, "What are you doing?" later on when he's got the gun pointed at the Dalek, and she's like, "Yeah, that's not the one that has the gun pointed at me. What are you doing, Doctor?" So I do think that in this episode particularly, it is in character, and I do think that it works really well. Again, just shows the impact the Time War had on the Doctor. For classic fans who've seen the Doctor before, it shows this different side to the Doctor because it's after the Time War. So for classic and new fans alike, it's a mystery about what's happened and what's made the Doctor like this. My favourite little tidbit about this episode is that before they knew that they had the licence to use the Daleks, it was originally going to be the Toclophane in this episode, which obviously were used later on in Series 3. But originally the Time War was going to be between Time Lords and future humans as Toclophane, and the Doctor wouldn't know what they are. My goodness, finding out at the end of the series, I assume it would have been the end of this particular season, that the species the Doctor loves so much is the one that destroyed his planet. That would have been quite something. I think it would have been a bit too traumatic for TV, seeing the Doctor's reaction to that, to be honest. For family viewing TV anyway. I think kids would have been traumatised by the Doctor's reaction to finding that out. But yeah, I just think it was interesting that the Toclophane were conceived up so early on in New Who's run. I'm glad they were brought back. But obviously I am glad that the Daleks are the ones that were used for this, because while I am not the greatest Dalek fan, I've never really been the biggest Dalek fan. I just haven't. But I do really appreciate when they're used well. And in this episode, they were used well. And to that end, I am going to put Dalek into... I'm going to put it into... I actually don't know. It's going to be in one of the top 2 tiers, I know that much. I just don't know which one, because... oh, screw it, it's going into NewWho. My issue was with Henry Van Statten, whose museum I want to have a walk through, by the way. That seems like an interesting place to visit. But my issue is him because basically the kind of people who he's based on who are alive today. Yeah, that's my issue with it, which isn't an issue with the episode itself. The episode itself is pretty darn good with his characterisation and all of that. And obviously he does get his comeuppance at the end, which is good. So I think that I can push past my views on that and put Dalek into NewWho where it belongs. And the MVP for the episode is Diana Goddard, who apparently was working undercover for UNIT or something. It was either mentioned in the book or it was mentioned in a different story, but apparently she was working undercover, so... Next up is The Long Game. So this episode got a 3, and I do think it was a decent episode. Was it perfect? No. Is it, however, unskippable? Yes. It is pivotal to the season arc, and also the title of this episode is mentioned in the finale because the Doctor realises the Daleks are playing the long game, and he literally says it, and this is part of that. So it is an unskippable episode, and it provides vital context for the season arc. I do have to say, Rose's look in this episode, love it. Absolutely love it. Rose looks great in this episode. I really love the style that she went for in this. Rose doesn't really change much in terms of style during her first season. It is mostly just sort of punky fish hoodies and jeans and whatnot, but it works. And her hair looks great in this one. Simon Pegg obviously played the editor in this, which was brilliant. I absolutely love seeing Simon Pegg in Doctor Who. I wanted to give him MVP just because I thought he was brilliant in the role, but that doesn't work with regards to the character. So yeah, couldn't do that. Although now I really want to watch Hot Fuzz and Spaced again. This episode also made me really concerned about digital ID again, and I mean, the long game was so far ahead of its time. Sometimes Doctor Who does the future very accurately and it's scary. Okay, the one thing I do have to say about this one though, for definite, is that Adam was done dirty. I'm not an Adam fan, I don't like the guy, but he was done dirty, okay? Because Rose was never put in this situation, and when she does fuck up later on in the series, the Doctor just lets her do it again and then forgives her instantly. There's no issue with her, he doesn't just abandon her somewhere. With Adam, he fully abandons him with a fucking hole in his head just because he made a mistake. It was a stupid mistake, and I'm not saying that anyone should get a chip put in their head, but it was a mistake nonetheless. Early in the episode, Adam asked a really good question about why there's no non-humans about, why there's only humans everywhere if we're so far in the future. And the Doctor admits that's a really good question. And then 4 minutes later, he gives him unlimited credits and tells him to go walk about. What did the Doctor really expect he was going to do? I mean, yes, he wasn't expecting him to get a chip put in his head, but still, the Doctor is really the one at fault here, not Adam, because why would you give someone unlimited credits and tell them to go off on their own on their very first trip into space without any kind of supervision? It's space and it's the future, and he's just letting this man wander off. I do just think it's the fault of the 900-year-old Time Lord who has a god complex and needs everyone to prove his point for him. Again, Adam was the one who chose to get a chip put in his head, so I can't really defend him for that one. That was a dumb move, but the Doctor should have been supervising in some form. But overall, I thought the episode was fine. And I think I'm going to tier this as... I think I'm going to put it into Wibbly Wobbly. I do think it was a decent episode, but it's not one that I would return to above others. It's unskippable for this season, but if you were just watching a bunch of your favourite episodes, I can't imagine many people would put this one on as their favourite. I could be wrong. Tell me in the comments if you absolutely love this episode. I don't hate it and I don't dislike it. It's fine, but that's all it is. It's fine. And the MVP of the episode is Eva St. Julienne, also known as Suki McRae Cantrell. Next up is Father's Day. So this episode got a 5. Now, I know this is a fan favourite episode. I don't rate it as highly as other people do, despite the fact I've given it a 5. When I was young, I didn't really enjoy this episode much. As an adult, I appreciate it more because of the emotional depth to it. When I was 10 years old, it wasn't a favourite episode of mine. I didn't really care that much about it. Also, this comes immediately after the Adam gets left behind because he has a hole in his head episode. Whereas in this episode, Rose literally rips apart the fabric of reality and the Doctor's like, oh, that's okay, I'll forgive you. Does she have pretty privilege or what? I feel like the Doctor should have given Adam a second chance, or at least fix the hole in his head. So there's a few points about this episode that I have. The first being Rose wanting to go back and meet her dad makes complete sense. And I like the fact the Doctor took her to her parents' wedding. That was cute. However, her going to the point of his death, the Doctor should have known better. The Doctor should have known better. He shouldn't have done it, and he definitely should have done it a second time. He broke a lot of laws of time there. Is he already the Time Lord victorious? I don't know. But he broke a lot of laws of time doing that, and he shouldn't have done it for obvious reasons. It was obvious before it happened. I don't know why he didn't foresee that happening. The fact that Pete figures out everything quite quickly and then has to come to terms with it over the episode is really interesting and really sad. I really like the bittersweet scene where he talks to Rose about it all and finds out she's his daughter from the future, and obviously he knows that he's got to die because he's seen that car going around and disappearing and appearing and disappearing. He's seen that, and he's seen the Doctor watching it, so he's figured it out. He's figured out what the cause of this is and what he's got to do to fix it. Obviously it takes him some time to process that, and that's fair enough, you know. But I really like all the stuff with Pete and Rose, and with Jackie as well, when she finds out the truth at the end and accepts the truth. It is an emotional episode with a lot of depth to it. And I also like the framing device of Jackie telling Rose this story at the beginning and how the story actually changes at the end. I like the fact that they did change the story at the end to say that there was someone with Pete, to show that at least Rose did make a difference. She made a small difference to Pete's death, but it was effective. It helped. So, having said all of that, I'm going to put Father's Day into fantastic. I'm sure a lot of other people would put it into ooey-oo. And to be fair, it's a timey-wimey episode. There's actually more time travel in this episode than there is in other episodes. So, realistically, for a time travel show, it should be in NewWho, but for me, it's just fantastic. It's still a brilliant tier. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And the MVP for the episode is Pete Tyler. And the no VP is all designers of 80s wedding dresses. Next up is The Empty Child. This episode got a 5, and I don't think that's going to be very controversial because it's a brilliant episode. It's a brilliant two-parter. It is the epitome of scary Doctor Who, and it's wonderful. It's a really great episode. It's horrific, it's terrifying. Obviously, the second part has the hopeful ending. I do think The Empty Child, as the first part, is terrific at setting up this mystery and this horror show and really delving into the amount of horror that they can go with Doctor Who in 2005. One thing I love about Stephen Moffat as a writer of episodes is how he seamlessly blends in humour with horror. This episode has a lot of small funny moments, but it's such a scary horror episode and it's all just seamlessly woven in. The comedy doesn't feel forced, it feels natural, and I really like that. This episode is really dark though. I mean, you've got Nancy, the unwed teenage mother. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on how she got pregnant, but she was a teenager, so we can guess. And then obviously she's looking after all the homeless kids during the war. And the one at the dinner table who says that he fled his evacuee home because there was a man there. I think it's cut off before he says anything more, but that's dark. Moffat didn't hold back with the horror in this episode because it's not just the empty child itself, it's not just the monster of the week, it's also natural horror of war and abuse really, and children, what they go through and went through. It is all round just a horror episode. And this episode is actually where Moffat seems to start his own backstory for the Doctor. It runs through the Moffat episodes and then in his own era of the show as well. Nancy and the Doctor have a quick snippet of conversation where they're saying about how it's not nice to be the only child left out in the cold. And she's like, oh, you would know about that, would you? And he's like, yes, actually I would. So instantly you think that the Doctor was a lonely child. In The Girl in the Fireplace in series 2, Renette mentions about how the Doctor was a lonely little boy. And then in Listen, in the Capaldi era, we actually see the Doctor as a child in the barn, crying his eyes out all alone. Yeah, Moffat just started his backstory of the Doctor very early on in his very first episode that he wrote of Doctor Who. Gotta appreciate the consistency, even if I'm not so keen on the backstory myself. One final thing about this one, which is just like a tidbit, it's not anything special. The Doctor gets a call on the TARDIS phone in this episode from the empty child, and it just reminds me of the series 6 opening two-parter with the child calling the president. Yeah, I mean, at least this time it wasn't the Doctor's future wife. It was just a gas mask zombie child, so. But on this rewatch, I did see quite a lot of things that repeat in Moffat episodes to Moffat series. I did see a lot of things that sort of repeated themselves in a slightly different way. Anyway, The Empty Child is obviously going to go into NewWho. I wasn't going to put it anywhere else. The Empty Child is an absolute winner of an episode. It's a brilliant episode of Doctor Who, and it's a brilliant horror episode as well. This is the episode that terrified millions of children back in the day. My nephew watched this and he was like, oh no, this isn't scary at all. I know he was scared. I know he was. Little liar. But also I make him watch Doctor Who in the daylight because I can't be held responsible if he gets scared of something and has nightmares. So when we watch Doctor Who together, it's in the daytime so that he doesn't get nightmares. But when he rewatches it in the dark, hopefully he'll be scared. And the MVP of the episode is Nancy. Next up is The Doctor Dances. So this is the second part of this two-parter, and again it got a 5. There's not really anything that I can say bad about this whole two-parter really. It is really good. I really like the hopeful ending of it as well with the everybody lives moment. It's really nice for the audience to have an everybody lives moment, but I think the Doctor really needed it at that point. Even he says just this once, everybody lives. He's been through so many centuries of war and death and destruction, and now everybody lives and he can be happy, and you know what? The Doctor deserves that moment of happiness and joy that comes from the fact that all the people are saved. At one point, the Doctor throws Rose his sonic screwdriver and tells her a setting for reconnecting barbed wire. And while I appreciate that, I do wonder how Rose knew how to change settings on it, considering she didn't actually understand what he was on about at the time. And I know the Doctor does that with Martha in series 3, hands her his sonic and tells her which setting to unlock the doors. But I've got to be honest, I prefer when the sonic screwdriver just works telepathically and you don't have to change settings. There's a single button on that thing and there's no sort of dial or anything. I just don't understand what that's about. I'd prefer it just working telepathically, then I don't have these questions. Rose telling Nancy that the Allies win the war is a nice little scene. It does put into perspective though how close we are to World War I and II, because we think of it as the past in history. I wasn't alive when the World Wars happened, but at the time this episode came out it was 50 years. It was only half a century. 50 years, that was it. It does put it into perspective that it was so very recent. I know there are people alive today who are veterans of the Second World War. And I know certain of my uncles and aunts were children in the Second World War as well. So I know that that is not as far away as we feel like it is. And the fact that we're now heading into World War III is... we just haven't grown as a species. The Doctor's right about humanity. Anyway, back to the Doctor dances. I do think that the beauty of this two-parter is that it is utterly terrifying, but it has a beautifully happy ending. It's just a great episode. So the Doctor Dances is also going to go into NewWho. And the MVP for the episode is Dr. Constantine. Honestly, the bit with that woman at the end, that's the reason he's the MVP. The bit with the woman who says, "My leg, it's grown back." And he just goes, "Well, there is a war on. Is there any chance you just misplaced it?" Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Next up is Boomtown. So this episode got a 4, and I will say that originally I didn't like this episode as a child. I thought it was boring. I wanted more action. As an adult, I can appreciate the truth of what the episode is, and I love it. It's a really good episode. It's a character-driven piece, and it has that moral dilemma in it that I love. It's really interesting overall, and I like it. One thing the episode brought up for me though is that the TARDIS is described as being alive. I have rewatched the classic series very recently, but I do wonder if I missed this in that. Was the TARDIS ever described as being a living thing before in Classic Who, or is it just a New Who thing? Because I don't remember anything in Classic Who about the TARDIS being alive. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to know. I just wonder if that's just a New Who thing. Speaking of the TARDIS though, Rose has access to this TARDIS, which travels in time and space. And she makes Mickey take a train to Cardiff to give her the passport that she doesn't even need, rather than just taking the TARDIS and getting him from London. I mean, Rose really does. She's just as great a character as she is in general, and I do think her flaws make her feel more realistic and more human, but she just really takes advantage of Mickey, and I can't stand it. As an adult, I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. Mickey's not perfect by any means, but he does deserve better than what Rose was doing to him. Even she says it at the end of the episode. She says he deserves better. And he does. I do wonder throughout this episode what Torchwood 3 were up to, because Jack was leading the team in the base underneath that waterfall tower thing. Were they all just like freaking out at all the rift activity? And he's like, nah, just leave it, it's fine. It's fine, don't worry about it. It's fine. Just sit him with his feet up on the desk reading a magazine. Ignore it, guys. Ignore it all. It's fine. I got this. While everyone else is just running around like headless chickens going, the rift is active. What do we do? I need a comic relief bonus scene of what was happening in the Tortured base at the time that the rift went off. And lastly, I do have to say, I don't understand how Blonde regressed into an egg form at the end. I don't understand how looking into the heart of the TARDIS turns you into an egg. They just kept saying at the end, she's an egg. She's an egg. She's an egg. I can see she's an egg, but why is she an egg? What happened here? What? So yeah, I don't get that. Anyway, overall, I do think this episode is a really strong one in terms of character and the morality of the episode as well, even if there wasn't much action or plot really throughout it. So I think I'm going to put this one into fantastic. There's also the fact that the toilet humour was really toned down in this one. It's helpful. And the MVP of the episode is Idris Hopper. I have to say I really do love that scene with the Doctor saying to him to tell the mayor that the Doctor is here to see her, and then the teacup just breaks and then he's like, oh yeah, the mayor's happy you're here, but maybe you can come back another time. And the Doctor's like, she's climbing out the window, isn't she? Yes, she is. Bless him. It's so funny. And then the Sonic scene later on where she's like trying to teleport away, just Sonicking her back. It's a really funny episode as well as a dramatic one. Next up is Bad Wolf. So here we are, the culmination of the Bad Wolf arc of this whole series. And this episode got a 5. Watching this again, I still love it. And I completely get all the references. But watching this again with my nephew, I realised how dated the references are. He had no idea what Big Brother was. He had no idea what Ground Force or Stars in Their Eyes were. He has no idea about the Trini and Susanna show. To be fair, I didn't even watch that one, so I can't even remember what the name of it was. But he does know The Weakest Link though, because that is still on. So he did recognise that one, but he doesn't recognise any of these other shows. He didn't recognise the android. He didn't understand that. He didn't understand the Davina droid either from Big Brother, so yeah, it is a bit dated. The references are dated. However, having said that, I did love Ground Force growing up and I want Stars in Their Eyes to come back. So, I mean, maybe they do. I do have to wonder though, is there like a pool on Earth where people can choose what one they go to? Like, can you put forward for The Weakest Link or Stars in Their Eyes or whatever? Then you get into that, or are you just picked at random and thrown into a TV show? I just wonder if there's the way that you could request a certain show. And who designed all these killer TV shows anyway? Was it the Daleks and they were like, ha, this will be funny, look at these old Earth shows, this would be better with more death? Or was it humans who went, this would be better with more death? Like, I just want to know, I just want to know who designed all these crazy TV shows that are based on really good TV shows from my childhood and are now killer shows. I just want to know. One thing I always want to know is why the Trini and Susanna bots sorted out Jack's clothing and undressed him and redressed him loads of times and sorted out his clothing before they started talking about surgery. Because I'm sorry, if he's going to have like a foot on his chest or whatever they went to do, or a dog's head, he's not going to be able to fit into those clothes. They'll have to redress him again. I don't understand what the point was of doing the clothing before the surgery. Talk about the surgery options first before you go into clothing. I don't get it. And also, does that mean that there are humans on Earth at this time who have dogs' heads and feet on their chests and stuff like that? Because are they just walking around like that? Like, I just... That would be an awful existence. Why? What, did that... Why? What? It's one of those things that I struggle to think about because words don't form. That seems like a horror show, a proper horror show. At least on The Weakest Link you just get disintegrated, but on the Trini and Susanna one, you're surgically altered without consent. That's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And then you just have to live like that? No. I mean, I know Jack had fun on that show, but he got the worst one, okay? He definitely got the worst one, by far. Most people would be uncomfortable at best with being forcibly undressed in front of however many viewers. But then add on top of that the forced surgery as well. That's insane. Like, really, the implications of that entire show are insane. Also insane would be Rose's apparent death at the end of the episode, because kids at the time would have been shocked, I am sure. Yes, she didn't die and she comes back at the end of the episode, but I'm sure that would have shocked the nation. That would have been a sheer, oh my god, they've killed off Rose, we love this companion, why have they killed her off, what has happened? And kids would be screaming and terrified. It was impactful. Even though Rose didn't actually die, very impactful. This is why I want to be able to watch these things for the first time again. My first episode was the Christmas Invasion, with obviously Rose and the new Doctor. So I already knew throughout the entire series 1 that the Doctor was going to change and that Rose was still there. So I didn't have any shock with this. So I wish that I could watch it all for the first time again, just because then I'd be like, oh my god, they've killed off Rose. It'd be like Game of Thrones all over again. But yeah, I just think that was a really interesting way to take it. Anyway, I am putting Bad Wolf into... I'm going to put it into fantastic. I can't deny it's a brilliant episode. I really do love this one. It is fantastic. I have an MVP and no VP for this one. The MVP is the controller. And the no VP is Roderick. I fucking hate Roderick. Burn in hell. Next up is The Parting of the Ways. So this one also got a 5. I think it's a fantastic finale, a brilliant way to end this two-parter and the series. It has action, it has emotion, it has just general weirdness. I think it's brilliant. I really do. My only real issue with this episode is that, for one thing, Rose, when she looks into the heart of the TARDIS and somehow that makes her absorb the time vortex, I don't quite understand how those two things correlate really, considering the TARDIS travels through the time vortex, not is the time vortex. But when she has a time vortex in her, the way it is for her, it sounds a lot more like Idris in The Doctor's Wife when she is the TARDIS rather than she is the bad wolf time vortex. It just feels like she's the TARDIS. It doesn't feel like Rose, it feels like the TARDIS in Rose's body. And also, when she had all of that in her and the Doctor took it out and then put it back into the TARDIS, he died from that. Rose didn't. I feel like Rose still should have died. The original plan for the episode, as far as I'm aware, was that it would end with the TARDIS scanner saying Rose is dying, and then the whole New Earth thing would be the Doctor taking Rose there to get healed. They still could have done that. They very much could have done that and just had the Doctor sort of like not finding out about that until Christmas Invasion or something. But it doesn't make sense to me that the Doctor, a Time King from Gabody, is absolutely annihilated by the time vortex being in him for 5 seconds. But Rose, the human, is absolutely fine with it being in her for minutes more than him. It still was in her and taken out, same it was in him and taken out. So I don't understand that. Nothing works for me with regards to that. But I look past it because it's a great episode. I do love the character moments in this one with Jackie and Mickey helping Rose, and also on the space station when Jack finds out the Doctor sent Rose away. He doesn't scream, he doesn't cry, he doesn't moan at the Doctor like, why couldn't you have saved me as well? He's just like, good, and he's ready to die saving the planet. Jack was only in a few episodes, but he really developed as a character as well, especially when he says I was better off as a coward. No, he wasn't. Jack was brilliant. And this episode was brilliant, and I'm going to put the parting of the ways into NewWho. I have loads more notes in this episode, but there's too many for me to go into, so I will discuss that more in a deep dive of the episode. For now, I will just say the MVP is Linda Moss. That is Linda with a Y. And finally, we come to the Christmas special, The Christmas Invasion. This episode got a 5, and it is my nostalgia pick because, as I have said, this was my first ever episode of Doctor Who. If I didn't enjoy this, I wouldn't have watched any more. And honestly, I didn't want to watch this. I was kind of forced to watch this by my parents and my grandparents because everyone else wanted to watch it. I didn't want to watch it at all. 10-year-old me was not having it. And then I watched and I fell in love. I love Doctor Who now. Just as a brief aside, I will be including the Christmas specials as the end episode of seasons because they are tagged on to that. This is in 2005 along with series 1. I don't care that it's a different Doctor. It's still the Doctor and it's still Doctor Who. This is part of series 1. I don't care what the DVDs do. The DVD release dates affected Christmas specials being included, so if you look on iPlayer at the time of recording, this is part of series 1. I mean, I always include it as part of series 1 anyway, but iPlayer does that as well, so I'll be including all Christmas specials as the end of a season rather than the beginning of the next. So this episode is really good for introducing the new Doctor because it follows Rose again. It follows Rose and Jackie and Mickey, the characters that people who've watched series 1 first have grown to know and love, and their reaction to the Doctor changing. It really is an interesting way of doing it. Similar to when the first Doctor changed into the second and Polly and Ben were there with him, and we already knew Polly and Ben. Polly had the, well no, this is the Doctor, let's just go with this. And Ben had the, who the hell are you? You're not the Doctor kind of attitude. It is a nice sort of audience surrogate in Rose, especially where she's so upset that the Doctor's changed, because we've had 13 episodes of Christopher Eccleston as the 9th Doctor, so it's interesting to now see the way that Rose reacts to the 10th Doctor, to the Doctor having changed, because the man she's come to know and love, maybe not romantically, but there is love there regardless, is a different man now and she doesn't know what's happening. I do think that's interesting. One thing that makes me laugh the further we go is that in universe, this is Christmas 2006, and aliens being on TV is bizarre and terrifying and oh my goodness. If this happened Christmas 2026, we'd be like, yep, that may as well happen now. Why not? Alien invasion, sounds about right. We're overdue. So I do think it's just something that makes me giggle when I think about it because, yeah, it may as well happen. I do want to praise one of the actors in this, the guy who plays the lead Sycorax in the episode. The way he seamlessly switches from the Sycorax language into English mid-sentence. It's not like one sentence is that and the other sentence is English. He seamlessly switches between them, and that was impressive. Every time I watch it, I listen out for a slip-up, but no, impressive. Murray Gold, I haven't really mentioned him, but the score obviously for all of Doctor Who is fantastic. But he has a song called Song for 10 in this one, which is a banging Christmas song. It feels like it should be a British classic Christmas song, but it's not. It's a Doctor Who song for Doctor Who. But it deserves to be a Christmas classic, along with another song in another Christmas episode, which I love. We'll get there. Okay, the only thing I have to say about this one though is that the Doctor is a massive fucking hypocrite, okay? How many genocides has the Doctor committed? a lot, okay? He's committed a lot. Some that we've seen, most that we haven't. He's committed a lot of genocides. He has caused the deaths of a lot of species. So Harriet Jones did what she felt she had to do. Do I think she was right to do that? No, I do not. However, do I think the Doctor was right to meddle with time and change all of British history? No, he's a hypocrite, okay? He says that he's not allowed to interfere with things, and then what does he do? He's like, oh, I don't like that, I'm going to interfere. And people think the Time Lord Victorious just showed up randomly in series 4. No. And the thing is, Harriet was right about her reasoning for doing it. In Tortured Children of Earth, Gwen does that whole video about the Doctor not being there at that time to help them. And the humans are bad against each other because they're trying to save themselves and their own children. And it's a really heartbreaking story, Children of Earth. And then obviously the Stolen Earth in series 4. Harriet was right. The Doctor wasn't there, which is why she did what she did, which is why she created the subway network as well. And honestly, Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, should have remained Prime Minister. We didn't get the Golden Age because the Doctor fucking meddled with time. In conclusion, Harriet may not have been in the right when she blew up that Sycorax ship, but she was right. And on that note, I'm going to put the Christmas invasion into NewWho. I know that's going to be a controversial placement, and honestly, if it wasn't my first episode, I wouldn't be putting it there. It'd probably go into Fantastic. But it was my first episode, and it clearly made me want to watch more, and I really, really wanted to watch more. So for me, it's going into NewWho because it's my nostalgia pick. Everyone gets a nostalgia pick, and that one's mine. One of mine. The final MVP for Series 1, and therefore the MVP for the Christmas Invasion, is Jackie Tyler. She saved the world with a cup of tea. Legend. And that is it. That is Series 1 done. So looking at this, I'm kind of surprised actually, because I thought it would all be Fantastic and NewWho with maybe 1 or 2 in Upgrade in Progress. So I am kind of surprised that I didn't go that far. I was being more critical. I honestly thought Bad Wolf was going to go into NewWho. And for me, I love it. I do love Bad Wolf. But when you pair it with The Parting of the Ways, there's just a difference there, you know? And also I don't want to keep putting 2 parties in the same category as each other. But you can still see it's an amazing season. Absolutely love it. Christopher Eccleston and the Ninth Doctor deserve way more love from the fandom. I'm sick of people saying to start with David Tennant's run. No, start with episode 1 of series 1. Why are you skipping all these episodes? These are brilliant episodes and deserve the love and respect. Honestly, I think that if things had been different with production and Christopher Eccleston had have stayed for more series, I do really think that he would be a lot of people's favourite Doctor. He's phenomenal in the role, and he deserves the love and respect of this fandom because he's the one who brought Doctor Who back. He is the Doctor. Looking at the season stats, the most common score was a 5 and the season average was a 4.49. Now, I have 4 quotes of the season because I couldn't pick. I really tried. But I'm going to do 4, and what I'll do is I will put a poll in the posts or community tab or whatever it's called, and you can pick which one you think should be the quote of the season. We'll do it that way. I have 4 quotes of the season and you guys can pick which should be the quote of the season in the poll. So the first quote comes from the episode Rose, and it's when Clive and Rose are talking in his garage or something, and Clive says, "The Doctor is a legend woven throughout history. When disaster comes, he's there. He brings a storm in his wake, and he has one constant companion, death. If the Doctor's back, if you've seen him, Rose, then one thing's for certain. We're all in danger." I think that as a start of a series, when we don't know who the Doctor is, that's a pretty epic way of introducing him. The next quote comes from The Long Game, and this one is one of those ones that I think it's such a throwaway line, but people need to listen to it, so I'm saying it here. And it's the editor talking to the Doctor and Rose when they have been captured. And he says, "Create a climate of fear and it's easy to keep the borders closed. It's just a matter of emphasis. The right word in the right broadcast, repeated often enough, can destabilise an economy, invent an enemy, change a vote." I mean, considering the BBC are giving way more time to Deform than to any other political party, and they have barely any MPs, I think that quote is kind of indicative of that, because it kind of feels like the editor's the one in charge, you know? The third quote is from Boomtown. And this is when the Doctor and Blonde are having their little dinner together, and she's saying that she's changed and she let someone go, she didn't kill them. And the Doctor says, "You let one of them go, but that's nothing new. Every now and then, a little victim's spared because she smiled, because he's got freckles, because they begged. And that's how you live with yourself." That's how you slaughter millions. Because once in a while, on a whim, if the wind's in the right direction, you happen to be kind. I just like that one. I think that's a really good quote. There's a lot of good Doctor quotes and Doctor moments. And as I said before, it was hard to dwindle these down into just 4, but I like that one. I think that's a really good one. And the final quote of the season is from The Parting of the Ways. And it's Rose in the cafe when she's talking to her mother and Mickey. And Rose says, "It was a better life. And I don't mean all the travelling and seeing aliens and spaceships and things. That don't matter. The Doctor showed me a better way of living your life. You know he showed you too. That you don't just give up. You don't just let things happen. You make a stand. You say no. You have the guts to do what's right when everyone else just runs away." I mean, that quote's kind of self-explanatory, right? Don't give up, make a stand, making sure that everybody has what they need rather than just running away and focusing on yourself. I think it's a really good quote, and it's something that's always passed me by in previous rewatches, but when I was rewatching this time, I was specifically listening out for good quotes to use, and that one caught my ear. I just really like that one. So if you want to, go to the poll in my posts section, I think, and select which one of those quotes you think is the best quote and should be the official quote of the season. I don't know if this will be an ongoing thing, kind of depends on how many quotes I can dwindle it down to for future series, but yeah, that's what's happening this time. And that is my tier list for Series 1 complete. Join me next week for Series 2 if you want to, and we will tier list all of David Tennant's first season.